For the love of God, do not let the CTA folks or whoever it is it Emmanuel or whoever the higher-ups in Chicago, do not let them read this question because they will just run with this thing, man. Do you know, here's the deal with Chicago, right? Here's the thing, like, it was $86 to take the subway for a 30-day pass. When Chicago raises prices, they don't mess around. 30-day pass, $100 now. Bam, just like, boom, 18%, what is that, 18, 17.5%? I thought that it was supposed to be like 2% or something increase. Chicago's not screwing around. That's why they cannot see this question, all right? All right, so question 10, which one of the following is an assumption? An assumption, a requirement on which the argument depends for its conclusion to be properly drawn, all right? So we should understand that an assumption is a requirement, okay? So akin to this, if I have $1, then I know that I must have 25 cents, okay? It is the necessary part of a conditional statement. So if I do have $1, it is an absolute requirement that I have 25 cents. Therefore, if I don't have 25 cents on me, if I don't have 25 cents, I cannot have $1, which means that if we remove the requirement, okay, then the sufficient condition cannot happen, all right? That's the contrapositive, okay? Which, taking it to the argument standpoint, if we remove the required condition or the assumption, the argument is destroyed. The argument will not follow. And that is what we're looking for when we're doing an assumption question. So, what do we have going on here? All right. Well, again, I'm going to whisper this because I'm in Chicago and somebody might hear. And then, bam, we might be charged even more. I'm going to stop bitching about Chicago. It's a pretty cool place. It is freezing cold out there right now, though. All right. But so, bottom line, the city comes out. They're like, oh my God, we have to alleviate congestion in the downtown, blah, 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 blah. So here it is. Here's what's going to happen. It's $10, not fucking around anymore. It's $10. You want to take your car into the city and drive around? $10. Boom. Pay up. Give us some cash. All right. And the way that they're going to do it, it's a very complicated system. I mean, there's a lot of ins and outs. I'm thinking about The Big Lebowski right now. I have no idea why, but it's extremely complicated. They've got a film, video, you know, like there's, like the police are running around, like they're making sure that you're paying the $10, okay? The system will not be ready till the end of next year, okay? It's complicated. I mean, it's going to cost a bunch of money to put this thing in and a bunch of manpower. Won't be ready till the end of next year. And so then I'm thinking, well, damn, is there another way that we can get this done? Not really. If you don't have the system, you've got massive evasion, all right? Massive, like people like me, I'm not paying the $10. If you don't have the system in place, I'm not paying, dude. So bottom line is, we want to drive down we want to charge people for coming into the city. We have a massively complicated system. It will not be ready till the end of next year. We have to have it. We've got to have it or there will be evasion. So just get it out of your head that we're not going to have this thing. And then we conclude this. When we implement this thing, there's not going to be any effective enforcement mechanism. So, all right, my first thought is there another mechanism? And we're told no. Without it, there's massive evasion. So we have to have it, okay? So hopefully you can see that we're just missing, we just got to plug in the gap here. We're taking a logical leap. I don't want to reveal it to you. We'll go through it, and when we identify it in the answer choice, hopefully it will cue in. But let's go through the answer choices and see what we come up with. Let's start with E. A daily charge for driving downtown is the most effective way to reduce traffic congestion. Well, when we're thinking about requirements, right, we can eliminate the assumption and we can say it is not true that a daily charge for driving downtown is the most effective way to reduce traffic congestion. The point is do we need to know, is it a requirement that it be the most effective way to reduce traffic congestion with regard to this argument? No, this argument is really not talking about traffic congestion anymore. It's talking about when we implement the system, we don't have an effective enforcement mechanism. As a matter of fact, the whole thing about the traffic congestion is just to set it up for like the city to basically steal $10 a day from us. I don't even know if there is a problem with congestion. But so this is not a requirement of the argument, and it being the most effective way, there's something with logical force there. When we start saying that there's only one way, I mean, then for that to be a requirement, it's a very, very strong statement. And it's not related to what the conclusion's doing, so it should fall out. D, raising revenue is a more important consideration for the city than is reducing traffic congestion. Does it matter, or is it a requirement that we talk about the relative need to for both of these things? No. All right. What if I said the exact opposite was true? Would that make this argument fail? Would that make this conclusion fail? When implemented, we're not going to have an effective enforcement mechanism. If this thing was flipped around on its head, absolutely not. It doesn't have anything to do with the conclusion. Let's go to C. The plan to charge for driving downtown should be implemented as soon as payment of the charge can be effectively enforced. Okay, so, all right, so now we're talking about the conclusion. All right, so let's just leave that one. Maybe that is the right answer, okay? Hopefully E and D have fallen out because they're not really having anything to do with the conclusion. But C, man, it's using the same words, and if you're like me, you're like, well, that is talking about it, okay? Let's look at B. The city will incur a budget deficit if it does not receive the revenue it expects to raise from the charge for driving downtown. Well, I see raised revenue in the city, but it doesn't talk about the notion of deficits, okay? So is that a requirement for this? And it's not even really, the conclusion's not even really talking about revenue or deficits or anything of that nature. It's not mentioned, it's not required, it's out of there, okay? Let's look at A. The mayor's plan to charge for driving downtown will be implemented before the end of next year. I'm like, okay, all right. So what is A really getting at? Well, okay, so when this thing is implemented, there will not be an effective enforcement mechanism, okay? Well, if the system won't be ready till next year, so we will have an effective enforcement mechanism when the system is put in place, right? It won't be ready till the end of next year. So if we figure that by the end of next year, this is the end of next year, okay, at this point, we do have an effective, okay? So what is the assumption in this argument? If we don't have an effective, then it would have to be implemented before. Okay, that is absolutely what this argument is assuming. So let's kind of take a look and see if I were to eliminate the assumption, okay? It is not true that the mayor's plan to charge for driving downtown will be implemented before the end of next year. So if it's not true, okay, that it would be implemented before the end of next year, that would indicate that it would be implemented after this point, okay? And if it were to be implemented after this point, this argument absolutely fails. Because when it's implemented, there would be an effective enforcement mechanism, and that is why A is a requirement, an assumption of the argument. If this assumption is eliminated, okay, then this argument is destroyed. It is not true anymore. That's why A is the right answer. Let's go back to C. The plan for driving downtown should be implemented, okay, as soon as payment can be effectively enforced. What would that do? That is an assumption that if we made that assumption, we're almost trying to say, let's implement this after the fact, okay? This is going against, this is diametrically opposed to what this conclusion is. Therefore, it's not even close to being an assumption. It's almost something that's there to weaken the argument, okay? So C talks about it, but it says something totally different, okay? All right, so again, we know that A is the correct answer to the question.